Okay, welcome everybody to the Oconee County Public Library Board of Trustees meeting, Tuesday, March 28th, 2023, 5:30 here in County Council Chambers. I now call the meeting to order. We had the original minutes were adjusted, so we need to make a motion to approve the adjusted minutes.
I make a motion to approve the adjusted agenda.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Well, we have both. We have both, sorry. we have
Oh,
to do-
okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
Do the agenda
Agenda
first.
For the
so
agenda
that
first.
We, that carries on through the rest of the
Okay,
meeting.
my bad. I make a motion that we approve the adjusted agenda first.
I'll second it.
Okay. And then we need approval of the minutes. They were also adjusted. Do we have a motion to approve the adjusted minutes?
Motion.
Second? Okay, motioned minutes and agenda are approved. So next we can go into public comment.
All right, if okay with the chair, so that we don't have to have our guests stick around until new business. If you want to go ahead, we don't have any other public comment. I didn't receive any emails or anything, so if you
Okay.
want to allow our guests to
Okay.
go ahead and move into the public comment section with,
We'll
obviously
do
waive the 4-minute requirement or whatever, but
Okay.
allow her to go ahead and present so that she doesn't have to wait around for new business.
Good idea.
Um,
Okay, so
Okay.
Jocelyn Bybee, if you want to come on up. Jocelyn is from the NOLA Network, and we'd love to hear what you have to say.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having us here tonight. I've been in Walhalla for about 6 years now, and actually live just a couple of blocks away from here. So I was like, oh, this is a cool opportunity to connect with you guys. Even though it's sad that Lakeisha couldn't be here with you, but she had her own city council things to attend to. So the NOLA Network is a nonprofit that was established in 2020, January of 2020. And the organization exists to help meet families where they are, both in health, education, and eventually we want to move into home as well, so real estate. And so we're working to improve the equity of people who are under-resourced. The reason that the NOLA Network exists, sort of the essence of its birth, is through our founder, Lakeisha Benson, and her son, our co-founder, Ja'Cory Benson. 6 years ago, just about, she lost her son to a sudden cardiac arrest, and her life was changed forever. Her son was well. He was healthy. He was an athlete, and he was vibrant in school and in sports and in the community. And one day, he was playing a game of pickup basketball with his friends, and he was no longer. And so the NOLA Network started from the spirit of carrying into how do we create resources around sudden cardiac arrests that are happening. So most of you guys know about Damar Hamlin, which was an incident that was earlier this year of another sudden cardiac arrest. And in this incident, we got to see a young person survive, even though his heart did stop and he did die. And so a very similar thing happened to Lakeisha's son. This is something that is consistently happening with youth, but with everyone, but with youth especially. We're seeing it in between the ages of 12 to 22, which are the ages we primarily seek to meet the need. And because one of the things that most people don't know about me is that I had heart surgery when I was a little girl, and heart condition runs in my family. And so when I was 2.5 years old, I had open heart surgery, and because of that, my doctors, primary care doctors, will ask me periodically, how are things going with your heart? It's about time to have another checkup and a screening. If you don't have a history like mine, or you don't have heart condition in your family, oftentimes there are two things that will happen. First, your doctor will not ask. And that this is commonplace. There are lots of things that could be going on with our bodies, right? It's not necessarily always just a missight of medical professionals. Sometimes it's just not procedure. The other thing that can happen is you might have heart condition in your family, or you might have record of having heart problems, as Lakeisha's son Vari did. And unfortunately, the resources are not always there to provide your screenings, whether that be the monetary resources or the resources in rural communities like ours. We don't always have all of the opportunities that everywhere else does have. And so those are just a couple of things that can happen when you have heart condition listed. But if you don't have it, oftentimes no one's really tracking it. And so what we know about sudden cardiac arrest and what we know about many of these incidents like Damar Hamlin, like Vari Benson, is that often the first sign of a heart condition is when your heart stops. And so if we're not tracking it along the way, and if we're not getting regular checkups on our heart, which are not required, we're finding out when people's hearts stop on the field, a lot of times because you're pressuring your heart a lot if you're an athlete, but also this can happen to anyone. I mean, it doesn't have to be an athlete. And so the NOLA Network is there to help close the gap in the state of South Carolina. We do that in a few different ways. One of those ways is our Vari Benson Keep the Beat project. Vari Benson Keep the Beat project. And this is an initiative by the NOLA Network to provide heart screenings all across Oconee County and then all across South Carolina, hopefully in the future. And so right now we are been around for 3 years now and are just now starting to see some results from our heart screenings that we have. We invite the community to come in, primarily again ages 13 to 22 years old, to come and get screened for just $20. And so $20, you can be screened, and that can kind of give you an indication if there is an inconsistency in your heart patterns or if there's not. And if there is, you will then be notified and told where to go and who to talk with next. So for example, we had heart screenings last year, and we screened about 70 students. Out of those 70 students, we found 5 previous undiagnosed issues out of the 70 that we screened. 5, okay? And one of those issues was significant, meaning that likely this person would have found out when their heart stopped that they had a condition. 1 out of 70 in the small amount of screenings we've had in the last couple of years. And that was just in the last year. And then 5 that had something that was indicating you might need to get further checked in the future, and we'll just keep monitoring it. And so this is really important stuff. It's not really fun stuff to talk about. We don't like to think about the fact that this could be happening, not just with our kids and our students, but like in our community in general. We don't like to see hearts stop on screens when we're watching football. But we do know that there is data to back up that the only way we're going to know this is if we start monitoring and we start checking sooner. So that's one of the things we do with the Keep the Beat project. There are a couple of other ways that we also are hoping to come around this initiative, and they are preventative actions as well. And so a lot of people that work in the heart world are focused on responding. That's what we saw with Damar Hamlin. We saw a response that saved his life. He had athletic trainers that knew how to do CPR, that knew how to use the AED on site. Here in Oconee County, here in the state of South Carolina, we have regulations in place that are intended to have our schools have things like CPR training and AEDs. And some of our schools do. A lot of our schools actually have something in place. What we don't have is a lot of funding to actually make sure that we are making sure everyone is trained in CPR in the way that South Carolina state law actually requires, and to make sure that our AEDs are accessible on site. So one of the statistics we talk about is that if an AED, which is a machine that jumps your heart if your heart has stopped, if an AED is not utilized in the first 3 minutes of a sudden cardiac arrest, the survival rate of a person is diminished by 90%. So if we have AEDs on our school campuses and they're locked in the front office, in a closet, inaccessible, unknown about often, and again, we have lots of other initiatives, we have lots of other things we're thinking about at that time, but if they're inaccessible and we've gone beyond a 3-minute time span if someone has a sudden cardiac arrest event, that's 90% less likely that that person is going to survive. And so what the NOLO Network hopes to do is to help partner with schools, to help partner with local programs, with the libraries, with community meccas, in a sense, and to help get you the resources that you need, to help get you the CPR education that you need. And so that is what we hope to do with the Keep the Beat project, and that is what I'm here to present on today. And so I know that both Lakeisha and Ja'Cory would have loved the opportunity to speak with you. They had prior engagements tonight, but I'm happy to answer any questions you have and share anything that I can.
So Jocelyn, how do you envision the library being able to help?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are a few things that we need help with in our community. The first is just general community support and partnership. I live a block from the library, and I know how much y'all do. I live from the Walhalla Library, I'll say. And so I know how much y'all do for the community, and I know how much the community trusts you. And so it would be an honor to have you there with us and partnering with us and just saying, the NOLA Network is here to help, and we want to help. We hope to have things like bilingual CPR trainings and things like that in the future, but I mean, we're going to have to find locations to do that. We're going to have to make sure the community knows that it's happening, because that's the other half of our work. It's not just putting things out there. It's when will they come? How will they come? How do we make sure they know that we're safe and there to help, and not just, another thing in the community? And so that's one of the ways that the library board and you guys would just be a huge help, just to partner with us in a community way. A couple of other needs that we have are for volunteers, which we are willing to train to assist with things like heart screenings and for, speaking for financial support or host sites for our screenings even, finding locations where we can bring in and have a safe place for a kid to go and be screened and then come back out and head back out with their family, and their parents can learn about what it is we're doing and other things that are happening. And so right now we are working to have another screening at Seneca Middle School. And it's great when we can partner with the schools, because that's our age group for sure that we're looking at. But we also know that most of the kids that come to those middle schools are going to be mostly athletes. They're going to be mostly from a specific team. And even then, we might not get what we need, because it's all based on the time that the school has that we can partner with. So if we can have more locations with a little more flexibility on time and a little more looseness on schedule, then we could reach much more people in the community who might have a need, who might be one of the 70 or 5 of the 70 even. And so those are a couple of ways that we could envision a partnership with you guys. We do need financial partnership as well, and that's all part of just having the conversations and connecting with who we can connect with. We have to have money in order to buy these heart screening tools and to put on the heart screenings and to pay the CPR trainers that are bilingual to come in, like all of these different things. And so, yeah, connection in that way, and finances, any way that we can partner to make a difference in our community is really what we're hoping to connect with you guys on, and just so you can know, because most people don't.
It's true.
Most
What
people
are
are
the
not aware.
requirements? Excuse me, what are the requirements for, like, a site,
Yeah.
for you guys to come and do?
Yeah, so we don't have a lot of very specific requirements. We do need to have at least 2 separate spaces that people could go behind a screen, because oftentimes a boy will have to take off his shirt, or a girl, and so they need to be separate, and we need one for males and one for females. And so 2 separate screening areas. They don't need to be very big. We hosted one at the YMCA in the Foothills area, and we were literally in like people's offices with a table set up in the middle. And so having a couple of those spaces and then a lobby area where we can have people come in and tell them that, there's not a lot of requirements. It's just mainly looking at the space and going, can we create a flow that they can come in and come out without there being too much crossover while kids are getting screened. Definitely would need to have some closed off area. And then, of course, making sure there's a bathroom nearby or something is
So
all.
if you're going to the middle school, so are you screening all of the kids or just a certain amount, or the ones that don't have insurance, or?
Yeah, so there's no specific requirement for the middle schoolers to be screened. This is in partnership with the athletic department. I can't remember who exactly our connection is there, but we're connected with the athletic department there, and we host our screening in the gym area, so they have the lockers. Students will come, it's at 3:30, and so they'll come after school. A lot of coaches, because when we do this training, we've partnered with the school to also provide physicals. And so a lot of students are coming to get their physicals done as well.
Yeah.
And they will be able to be trained. They don't have to be screened after their physical either. They can just come in and get a physical. But it's a resource and an opportunity provided alongside of what we're already doing at
Are
this
you gonna leave us information to contact you?
Yes, so I will leave, I did not have any flyers with me. I'll leave what I do have, and I'll definitely leave my number and Lakeisha's information as well.
Awesome, thank you.
And is there like a website or anything online to?
Yes.
Okay.
The NOLAnetwork.org.
Are you saying NOLA, N-O-L-A?
NOLA, yes. The
And
NOLA
who,
Network.
does a doctor do the screening, or who does the actual screening?
Yes, so our volunteers are trained to screen. So I've been trained by, they're called Who We Play For. They operate out of Florida, and they're a similar organization in the sense that they provide heart screenings. And right now, because we don't have our own equipment to screen, we partner with them to bring their screening equipment in, and they train us how to use it. And so it's similar, a heart screening device is similar to an AED in the sense that you follow like a 5-step instruction and you can be trained in a matter of a couple of hours, just like if you were doing CPR training. I mean, CPR takes longer, but AED training, you can be trained in a couple of hours how to use an AED machine. It's intended to be, these machines are intended to be user-friendly in that way. We do also have a few nurses on our board and that are volunteers that partner with us. And then when we do things like where we're providing physicals, of course we have partnering organizations that come in and do the physicals. They are done by professionals.
Is there liability insurance for these volunteers?
So that's a great question, and I will have to defer that to Lakeisha because I'm not sure. I am on our board, but I just don't have that information on me. But I know that has been a conversation in our board meetings before, and so I would not be surprised if we do have it. I just can't confirm at this time.
You'll get that response to Blair, then he could get that out to us then?
Yes.
Would that be, okay, thanks.
Anybody else? Jocelyn, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Great
much for the
presentation.
opportunity.
Thank you. We look forward to figuring out a way to work with you.
All right, and should I leave this?
Yeah, you can leave that with Blair. That's perfect.
So I'll leave you these 2 things,
Okay.
and then I'll email you.
That is me, but also the one you need to be in contact with is our library social worker. As far as setting up any of the programs, doing any of that kind of stuff, or even booking for like screenings and whatever she's doing.
Yeah.
you can-
She's the one.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate it, guys. Y'all have a good
Thanks for
evening.
coming tonight. We appreciate it. All right, Blair, do you have the Friends report for us?
Okay, Friends report, I did include the figures for the sales in the background information in the director's report, but just very briefly, the January sales in total were $2,982.
So incredible.
Stunning.
$3,713. So not really, I mean, the holidays were wonderful, but they're really not that much of a fall off. You know, they are, doing, they don't show, they have added a location at the, at Mountain Mocha. They don't show that specifically, but they are looking for other locations to actually put small booths. Of course, they do have a fairly sizable booth now. It's grown a good bit since they started it initially. They do have a pretty sizable booth at the M. Tannery and Sons, there on M. Canal
Yeah.
in Seneca. And that, particularly during the holidays for gifts and things, was a great location. They have agreed to go ahead and fund summer reading for this year. They had their board meeting, their Friends board meeting like a week ago, the last Thursday. So not the last Thursday, but the Thursday before. And so 16th, I think. But they've agreed to fund summer reading again this year for us, so $3,000 for all the various things that Darcy asked for. And it's great because that helps fund some of the prizes, that helps fund a lot of the supplies. Also, we haven't heard yet whether it's been approved. Usually there is no issue on that. But I'll talk when we get to the director's report about the state grant also has been increased this year. I think she might have mentioned that in her report. But just to get back to the Friends, they, like I said, have agreed to fund their portion of summer reading like they always do. That does include some prizes for adult summer reading. So even the adults can participate, and our program this year is basically birth to however long. You know, if you can pick it up, if you can read it, heck, if you can get talking book services, you know, if you can't see anymore, if you're reading, you get to count it. So, you know, we'll talk a little bit more about summer reading as we go along too. But as far as the Friends are concerned, they also have done a couple other projects for us. They are looking right now, actually, because of what they're raising, they're looking for a larger project. So I've just begun talking to them about, but we are looking at a slightly more space allocation in our Walhalla Ranch. We ran into a situation, actually, oddly enough, with the Friends. We had to book a children's program in the meeting room kind of at the last minute because of the availability of the person coming to do it. And the Friends had already booked their board meeting in there, so we had to move them into the South Carolina room. So we are looking at the possibility of taking, you know, like the false walls or compartmentalized temporary walls and all, like what we have for our study rooms, and possibly creating a space in the back for an additional small conference room where you could have 8 to 10 people. That kind of thing. And the Friends would be more than willing to fund that. And so they are looking for a larger project that they have a goal to raise even more money, which is pretty exciting. And they are, in fact, I think right now they've done so well, they're looking for more inventory down at the basement. I'm gonna have to get behind the staff to do a little bit more of, de-ascension of items and get them a little more inventory. But, so they are doing well, and they've got a pretty good steady group right now that is, very engaged and, just excited to do whatever they can for us. And whenever I go to them pretty much with a project or an idea, they're like, yeah, what can we do to help? So, very appreciated what the Friends are doing.
Awesome.
That's very cool. Wonderful. All right, let's go on to committee reports. Finance Committee.
Yeah, I have nothing to report, but I know already the county's starting to work on the next year's budget, so we'll be getting more information, I'm sure, in the future, probably at the May meeting on that.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah. Policy Personnel.
That's Shelby, I think. She did not pass anything on to me other than to say, when we get to the point where we will be talking about the strategic plan, I filled her in already on, our progress and our intent, where we are, so she's aware of that, and just, knows kind of where the staff is on it and what we're gonna be doing with it. I'll fill you all in a little bit later, but that was pretty much the only thing that she asked me about it that she mentioned.
Okay. And Building and Grounds. That's Cliff. Did he pass anything
That's
on?
Cliff. When we
No.
get to the director's report, I'll mention the Seneca project that we had talked about before. I do have some new numbers on that. Other than that, on buildings and grounds, we are, I will say that we are looking at during in-service, that's gonna be on April 7th, we'll close to the public and we have our in-service. We are planning on doing a beautification project, at the Walhalla Library, out in the front of the Walhalla Library. We had I'll get this wrong, but maybe it was the Blue Hills Garden Club, I'm not really sure. Because then the Lakin Hills is the one that does our Seneca location for us and did all the bed out in the front and made it look so nice. But anyway, the garden club that used to help us out in Walhalla has kind of moved on to other projects. They had done, there's kind of the bed down in front of, which kind of seems like the back because it's not the entrance, but it's kind of the front of the library down there on Pine and South Broad. So there's a little section in there where there's some nice bushes and then those trees have grown up and all that. They did all that. They started all that years ago. But they've kind of gotten to the point where they have other projects and some of the people that were involved on that, of course, have moved on or retired or, whatever. So, we are gonna kind of take over and the staff, the morning, everyone will be in Walhalla for an all library session. We're gonna talk about, summer reading and customer service and a few other things. But then in the afternoon, each of the branches will go back and complete projects on their own that they can do when we're not, that way we're not open to the public. They can make noise, bang on things, hammer, do whatever. So the project in Walhalla is going to be for, beautification out front. We're gonna
Right.
plant.
Will we need, will there be a need for manpower?
It's mainly gonna be the library staff, I think, that's gonna be taking, doing it. I know Sue, Andrus has got it all kind of planned out and laid out, and then I think they're gonna go to Headley Nursery and try to pick out some different plants based on, they're gonna kind of do different levels so that it cascades, really looks nice out front.
Nice.
And I think they're the ones planning on doing it.
Okay.
That's a good team building
What's that?
activity, a good team building activity.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, that's part of it too, and just also, our facilities maintenance does a great job, but what they have time to do, particularly once it gets into the warmer months, they have time to mow.
Yeah.
And time to trim,
Yeah.
and time to, like they pruned our crepe myrtles, and thank goodness they didn't make a big mess out of them this year, so that was a good thing. Because, so often people are prone to just take a crepe myrtle right off at its base and they think that's okay, but, it really does stunt them and, make them more susceptible to disease and everything else, so, anyway. But yeah, it's a part team building activity, but also just part because the staff, we wanna try to improve both the inside and outside. Our new service desk obviously has done a lot for us, possibly creating a new meeting space that doesn't currently exist. That's a thing for us. And then also beautification on the outside, because that's something that traditionally we either had volunteers or the garden club or something like that do. And the staff is gonna take over and at least get it started. We might have volunteers later on that are willing to look after it and that kind of thing, but to get it planted, do the grunt work, it's gonna be, the staff has already said they're willing to go do, so. That's the afternoon on April 7th, provided it doesn't rain, of course. So, building and grounds, other than that, I do have some information on the Seneca project that I'll pass along when we get to that point in the agenda. But other than that, and then the beautification in Walhalla, that's pretty much it
Okay.
on that report.
All right, community relations is me. I continue to go to chamber events, talk about the library, and bring people in like the NOLA Network. That was a reach out that I did to bring her in. And I'll continue to do so when I find interesting projects, around. I'll get them to come present to us.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You know what I was thinking, Liz, is because Tara just came on in January. I'm not sure if you talked to anybody about serving on any of the committees that we have, standing committees.
Good point.
Yeah, so you might think about that
Yeah.
based on your interest or background.
Okay.
Yeah, I hadn't talked to anybody about it yet. but,
Okay, well, we
Are there
can talk
certain
about-
terms or?
You must be on the board.
Yeah, pretty much. And you'll just
Well, I mean, I meant,
volunteer.
like, are there people that roll off of it or?
No,
It sounds like they're all
haven't done that
filled.
Well, really, there's I'm the only one on the community relations committee,
And
yeah.
I think I'm the only one on finance, or maybe Allison's on it, I can't recall now.
Yeah, building and grounds is Cliff, are you with Cliff?
I am.
Yeah.
You're with Cliff, okay.
Okay.
Policy and personnel, Shelby,
And maybe Nick.
maybe Nick?
I'm not really sure on
I'm not
that,
sure
if
about
he's-
Nick being
if he's
on there.
actually on that or not.
But
Yeah,
here's the thing, you have an interest,
Yeah,
you can go with
Wherever
whatever
you wanna go.
committee
Okay.
you want.
Okay.
I don't think any of them have 3 people on
No,
it,
right.
so that would not be an issue.
yeah.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
I will think about it.
Cool, that sounds great. The chair's report, I do not have a report for tonight, so I will segue on to the director's report.
All right, and I will keep mine, fairly brief. I do just wanna point out, at this point, I have not asked Carrie Leeper Brock, our Community Resource Associate or social worker, I've not asked her to do a separate bi-monthly report because, you know, up until very recently, we were just still trying to get her going. And quite frankly, she's got so many things going on right now that, you know, usually I just try to put in my own report some of the things that she's doing. And I did add some of that for you all in my written report this time, so hopefully you got a chance to take a look at that. Some of these statistics we also do report to our funders. As far as the period of her grant, initially her grant was due to run out in May. The Center for Rural and Primary Healthcare has extended her grant until May of '24. So we will carry on at least that long. I have put in a request to the county administrator for her salary then to be picked up by the county. I have not heard back from the county administrator yet. I have also talked to the county grants person, Brittany Martin, and told her if, for whatever reason, we cannot get Carrie on county payroll, then I will need an additional grant once that one runs out May of '24. I don't have any details on the extension, whether there's any additional funds available, or whether we just have to kind of stretch out what we have. What happens if we run out of money before we run out of time? I don't have any details. They're still working out some details with DHEC, because I think that's who's extending their funding and that kind of thing at the Center for Rural and Primary Healthcare at University of South Carolina. So I don't have any details on her extension yet, but we do know that we will have her position funded at least through May of '24, provided they can work out the details and they get a little more funding and that kind of thing. I mean, I think based on the fact that we initially had kind of envisioned her being full-time, and that's what I wrote the grant for, and then now she is part-time, we probably do have enough money to stretch for a good while. But will the time or the money run out first? I can't tell you that right this minute. I can get you, that information, and probably will have it from my May report, but I don't know right now. We're not far enough along with the center and with DHEC and all to know what the terms of the extension are gonna be. But I do know that we're gonna be able to keep her on a while longer, and as you may have seen in, some of the report in programs and services and just in the other, section, she is really proving, to be quite valuable to us in terms of not only the programs that she's doing, but also these kind of partnerships. I mean, what Jocelyn was talking about is basically right up her alley. She is on Healthy Oconee with me. We have been to those meetings. Healthy Oconee is also getting a grant, $50,000, I think it is. And from, that one is from Office of Rural Health. And so our focus on that one for that grant is, as Healthy Oconee, is gonna be, diabetes. Like how to better arrest diabetes at the beginning and all, get people to make lifestyle changes, particularly focused on food, that kind of thing. Monica's also on Healthy Oconee, so she's heard all of this, as well. But our grant then will focus on that. And we have that grant until, at least right now, we think December of this calendar year, 2023, and we're hoping that they, since that's a state agency, that I think they use federal money, but since it's a state agency, we're hoping that they'll let us extend that on at least until June of 2024, at the end of the coming fiscal year. So that's where we are as far as her position, and also some of the other things that we're doing with that. We have lost a couple of our part-time recently, mainly just due again to, even though we were able to get the salary raised to $10 an hour, that's really nothing right now. I mean, You know, when the fast food places are paying 15, 16, you know, we're not gonna compete. And the young lady we just lost was one of our Walhalla staff, and she moved on to a full-time job as a manager at Michael's. So, I mean, you know, we're certainly glad to see them succeed and get full-time, because we have a lot of younger staff, and when they get older and they go off their parents' insurance and that kind of thing, they need full-time employment. But it is, I think, increasingly gonna be a little bit of a problem for us. We are one down at Seneca currently and two down at Walhalla of our part-time. Those are the ones that come through Staff Mark. So we are actively recruiting right now, looking at resumes, that kind of thing. Fortunately, we are seeing and getting some resumes. We just did hire a new young lady at Walhalla, who had actually worked a little bit in the Spartanburg system for a while, so she definitely knew libraries but has moved back to this area, so she's working with us. I mean, how long she'll stay, she finds a full-time job somewhere, who knows, but anyway, right now she is working with us at Walhalla. So that is an issue, but if you've been paying any attention at all to some of the news, you also know that even the full-time positions, thank goodness not us, we're in pretty good shape full-time right now, especially if I could get carry on. Our full-time positions are pretty well filled, but if you've paid any attention to any of the news talking about the county budget, you know, they are about 50 positions short right now, in the county, so about 11% of their workforce. So wages just aren't able to keep up with inflation, you know, as the COVID has waned a little bit and some of the other markets have improved. There's a lot of, you know, places that will be hiring, that have started hiring, that kind of thing, and it's hard for the county jobs to keep up. Fortunately for us, our, you know, positions, at least full-time positions, are still pretty desirable. And right now, I've got a really good crew that is committed to us and committed to staying, you know, at least for a while. Nobody signs on for life, but I mean, you know, we've got a really, really good crew, and so I feel better about our full-time positions and not like we're in such bad shape with full-time positions. I do worry about our part-time positions. I have spoken to the county administrator, but, you know, that may have to be, once they've settled how they're gonna better compensate the full-time, then I can piggyback that onto that discussion. So that may not happen right away. Fortunately, we are still getting some applications. We are still getting some people to come in, but that just is a little bit of a concern of ours. I think I might have mentioned before that we are getting a library app, like a phone app, device app. That is now, we now have the keys to it. It's not live yet, but we have the keys to it and been developing it. So, Bethany Culp, who is our cataloger, our technical services person, has also, in addition to having done the bulk of the work, honestly, on updating our new website along with Darcy, she now is working on the app. It's gonna be wonderful. It's gonna have the same kind of graphics and a lot of really nice stuff. She's gone in and completely redone all the graphics from just their stock stuff. And so it'll look a lot like our website, which is really nice. And then it'll have, you know, good stuff on it, like it'll send you to our calendar of events. It'll send you to the catalog. It'll even let you make any fines or fee payments right there on the thing. And I mean, it'll be, you know, pretty much one stop, okay, between your website and the app. And then also for summer reading, we're using Beanstack this year instead of what the state library was giving us before, which was Read Squared. So Beanstack will be using it for the first time this year. That we're gonna spend the bulk of our time at our in-service training talking about the youth services and the summer reading and that kind of thing to get staff used to playing with, using Beanstack. It should be a lot easier for our users, for our patrons to use, because it is more user-friendly. It's a lot more graphic intense, a lot more, you know, ease of navigation and that kind of thing than what Read Squared ever provided for us. A lot of times, frankly, these last few years, that was a tool that the state library had, but instead of having patrons register themselves like they were sort of supposed to, we just did paper registrations, and then Darcy and DJ went in behind the scenes afterwards and entered them. Because it was easier than trying to figure out how to tell people how to do this thing. Beanstack is a totally different animal. Beanstack is very user-friendly, it's engaging, I mean, the graphics are nice, that kind of thing. And so we're gonna get staff up and running on that. You all should see that, hopefully by the May meeting, I can put some stuff up online and show you, on the screen and all that kind of stuff. Maybe some of you will even experience it when you register for adult summer reading. Hint, hint.
I saw that.
Yes.
Fun.
So, cause again, everyone can participate from the youngest on up. And as you mentioned too, the county is working on the budget. Right now, I think maybe one of the good things for us in terms of staffing is that they are planning to try and do, this will be the first of a 3-year cycle of trying to get some reclassification and better salaries for some positions and that kind of thing. I think that will benefit the library. The county hasn't had any kind of a comp and class or compensation classification study done since 2011, I think, something like that. So, you know, and they've made adjustments and that kind of thing, but obviously they haven't kept up. So I think that the library will benefit from that, as well. And that is about it for the moment. The other thing I was going to mention about the state library, the grant this year went from 1,000, which is what the summer reading grant has been in the past, to 2,000. So that's gonna allow Darcy to pay our 2 performers, our 2 biggest events, which is gonna be Critter Keeper and Pork Chop Productions, which is they're gonna come in and do a whole play, whole production. They're a theater type, traveling theater type group. And this year's theme is all together now, so it's gonna be, we're gonna kind of treat it almost like a summer camp friendship kind of thing. So they're gonna come in and do, I forget exactly what they're gonna do, but anyway, something along those lines. And so the calendar will be out soon, but I wanna say the Critter Keeper is in June. No, Pork Chop Productions is in June, Critter Keeper is in July. Anyway, that schedule will come out pretty soon. Both of those will be up here at the Walhalla Performing Arts Center. But since the grant went up this year from 1,000 to 2,000, we also have a little more room in there once she's paid performers. We're gonna get a little bit of new equipment to help us with some of the promotional materials that we turn out. So we're really excited about that. I haven't heard, the grant is in, we haven't heard on approval yet. Usually these things are rubber stamped, but I don't think we can actually start spending any of the money until I have the state librarian's signature on a piece of paper, so we'll see how that goes. But we don't anticipate any issues. Usually these things are very cut and dry, as long as we've done the requirements for them. Have our match, which is usually just whatever amount we're gonna spend on certain parts of our programs, that comes from the Friends, and then staff salaries, so we should be in pretty good shape. So, you know, with that, and then with what the money that the Friends gave us, you know, we're actually gonna have 2 events this year instead of 1. We're gonna have a kickoff and a end of summer reading. So our kickoff is gonna be out at High Falls County Park. Love having our county parks as partners, which we also do have the county park passes. If you all will remember, we have those available now, and those check out. And then we'll do our end of summer reading bash like we always do out at South Cove, and that'll be at the end of summer, late July. So, some really good stuff coming up there. We're grateful to the Friends, obviously, and also, of course, you know, our support from the state library with these grants and things. They make them real easy to fill out, real easy to do, and it's definitely a big benefit to us.
Awesome.
So I have a question about
Yeah.
the summer reading program. I'm just curious about folks, kids that aren't necessarily readers, or maybe they have vision issues or something. Is the reading do you have to read a book? Can you do an audiobook?
No, you can have a book read to you. So
Okay.
again, like the early,
Okay.
like, you know, ones that are not reading yet, we
Right.
encourage parents to read to them. You
Okay.
can be read to, it can be an audiobook.
Okay,
We don't care what you're reading. You wanna read a cereal box, read a cereal box, I don't care.
okay,
Because it's gonna be based on number of minutes read again this year, as it has been
Okay.
in the past. And you can be read to, so even if a child has vision issues, that kind of
Yes,
thing, listen
okay.
to an audiobook.
Nice.
Parents can read to them, I mean, any of that counts. And in fact, quite honestly, you can double dip, because if you're a parent, you can count the time you read to them on
That's
theirs
true.
and yours. You can double dip, and we don't care.
You
We
cut
don't
that
check
out of
that.
the minutes.
We don't check that, so, yeah, it is. we
Teen
make
Lit's
it-
pretty interesting.
We make it as easy as possible for them to participate. Of course, there'll be a lot of fun prizes and things when they complete, and then there's drawings and things as well.
When is the kickoff?
What's that?
When is the kickoff? I'll look it up. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I don't think we've got, she's still working on that calendar, but it is First week in June, I know that much, I just don't know.
I know
the
it
date
always
yet.
starts when the school
Yeah.
year ends.
Yeah, so it'll be, I think we may do as we've done in past years, we may open signups because then those days right after Memorial Day, as I know those are half days and nothing happening and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
We usually open it up about a week before we actually start, but I think the kickoff is that first,
Yeah, school is out on the
Thursday.
27th.
yeah, and I think it's that first.
Yeah.
Then we go into that first week in June, the kickoff is at High Falls, and then the Pork Chop Productions is that second Wednesday or Thursday in June, and then I think the, Critter Keeper is on the 11th of July, and then the end of summer bash is like that last Wednesday or Thursday in July. Anyway, she'll be out with the calendar really soon. I know they're already working on that. Because we are working on Beanstack, I know probably after we do the training on Beanstack in April at, in-service, probably even, like, she'll put it out and it won't, you can't register yet, like, you can't click on anything yet, but I think she is planning on making Beanstack live so people can see it and get used to it and that kind of stuff, and it'll say, hey, you know, coming soon, that kind of thing. We are planning to use Beanstack for other than just summer reading too, because it is a tool that the state library is providing to us. We are actually looking at doing additional reading challenges through the year, like in the wintertime and that kind of stuff, both for adults and kids. 1,000 books before kindergarten. There's a couple other fun things that she wants to be able to use Beanstack for because it's just so much more versatile than what Read Squared ever was.
And that actually brings me to something I should have mentioned in my community relations was, the fellow that owns Piece of Pie Pizza, that's near Lake Hartwell off Highway 11, was at a chamber event recently, and he's from Westminster, and he wants to partner with the schools ideally, but he is not able to get in the door there, so would like to partner with the library to do, during the year, some kind of reading incentive that he would then reward with pizza. So at some point, I've asked him as well to come speak to us to talk about that, to see if that's something that we're interested in.
Okay. And honestly, he can just reach out to Darcy. I can give you her
Okay.
email and, well,
Okay.
you know, y'all probably, I see her email, but anyway,
I've got
I'll
it.
give you her email and that kind of
Okay.
stuff. He can reach out to her because,
That's okay with you all, just connect them?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. I think that's simpler is just have him reach out to her and
Sure.
then that way she can, you know, I'll know about it, of course, and then, you know, we can
Okay.
talk about how to make that work.
Okay,
And, you know, can we get it in this year or is it too late? I know we have some sponsors already and everything, or if we could maybe do it like in the fall.
all right.
Do a different program and have, you know, where they read. Yeah, we can even, like, if we do a later reading challenge in the fall or something leading up to the holidays, we could include him and say, hey, that's your prize is pizza. So we can figure something out.
Okay,
We can
and
make
just
that.
something that's really important is what are the prizes for the adult reading program? If Sue's in charge of it, I feel secure, there'll be
I
fun
don't
prizes.
know, I've seen some of the children's prizes, but I don't know whether Sue has finished her
A new
list.
Kindle. If there's a new Kindle, I will.
Or if she will bake for us.
I don't,
Oh,
I
yes.
don't know if she has finished the
know
list
Sue's
yet, but Sue's in charge of adult summer reading this year, so she is the one making the list.
She'll be baking.
Good. All right, thanks, Blair. So now we'll move on to old business, and that is to discuss the strategic plan. Excuse me.
Okay, very briefly on that, we still are right now kind of at the staff level. Darcy, our youth services librarian, I had been sending out to first the managers and then to the rest of the staff to get some input on the framework that we had sort of created in here, like the things that we had said, okay, yes, we've done a good job on those, or we didn't get a chance to do that, or okay, we finished that, or whatever. And then, so right now, she's converted that into a Google Doc that is editable for everybody and sent the link out to all staff. So we are getting staff input right now. We are gonna talk about it at in-service on the 7th. And then once we've done that, and I sort of have a chance to assemble what all the staff really, like their things they want to emphasize and that kind of stuff, then we're going to look for an opportunity to either have some kind of a listening session or some kind of something with the public. They'll want to get it, you know, a lot of this out of the way before summer reading, before all that pretty much takes over.
Yeah.
So we're looking at trying to do that sometime either later in April or early May. And my goal right now is to have it in a good enough form to bring to you all at the May meeting for final approval.
Could we get that ahead of time, just so we can read it ahead of
Oh,
time?
sure.
Okay,
Oh, sure.
thanks.
I mean, I won't bring it that day and say,
Okay,
here,
thank you.
look at this and approve it, but.
That's
Well,
speed reading.
and I just sat through the strategic planning, sort of session that the city of Seneca did, 2 weeks ago. And it just seemed like, I know they're council members, so it's a little different than us as a board, but it's a lot of ways similar. It just seems, I feel sort of left out of this whole process. And I don't know if that's good, bad, or indifferent, but I don't know how anyone else feels about that. I just feel like it's all been on staff, and it's like, well, wait, and then we're just gonna approve it at the end?
But I think that's
Well,
what we
but
decided.
there will be, I mean, obviously you all are gonna be a part of any listening session or anything that we do and have input there. Once the staff has approved it, and I've got it in some kind of form, not approved it, but when I've got all of their input and it gets got it in some kind of form, then I'm gonna be sending it out to you all. So it's not the first time you won't, it's like, let me stop myself. The first time you see it will not be at
The
the
final,
May,
yeah.
May meeting. Okay.
But didn't we decide, I thought we had decided for them to start and then we would take a look at it because they're in it. Isn't that what we said? If I remember correctly, I think that's how it happened.
No, I know,
Yeah.
but again, that's so unusual than any other organization
Oh,
I've
yeah,
worked with.
Yeah.
And so, that's what, and that we're still, almost a year into it, and we're still,
know.
okay?
That's true.
So, anyway, that's
Yeah.
all. I just had to say my piece, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
Your piece of the pie.
your piece of the pie.
Send it over here.
Thank you, Blair. Is that it for the strategic plan? All right. How about building projects?
All right, building projects, I did finally, one of the things that, in preparing for this coming year's budget, obviously, I will say that our regular budget, for buildings and utilities and books and all that kind of stuff, they have already said that'll work. Now, obviously, we haven't been through the 3 readings, all that kind of stuff, it's not a done deal, council could come in and do anything. But the administrator has, has approved what I had put forward. We asked for some minor increases in books and audiovisual because of just shipping costs have increased, inflation, that kind of thing. We asked for more in, gas and diesel, and we asked for more in a couple other places. Those things were approved. Now, so the big ticket items like adding Carrie to the payroll, obviously I'm still working on that. Also, for our project in Seneca, now unfortunately, I've not heard anything either from the engineers or from county about the expansion of the meeting room in Seneca, but I did receive from the engineer with Thomas and Hutton, Kevin Shoemake, an estimate on what the actual construction cost for the ADA ramp is gonna be. So we paid about $14,000, I think, so far. We haven't paid it all yet, we're in the process, because some of the engineering costs will be them actually overseeing the construction and final reports, all that kind of thing. So we're somewhere, maybe a little over halfway in about $14,000 that they spent on the engineering portion of it with Thomas and Hutton. Kevin Shoemake with Thomas and Hutton, though, did provide me with a construction estimate, which is $55,974. I have given that over to county finance and to the administrator for inclusion, hopefully in this coming year's fiscal year budget. But now I have not received any, confirmation as to whether it was included, whether they will fund it. I feel like since it is, yes, we were grandfathered in, it's not absolutely 100% required for that building, but given as it's ADA related and given we've already spent the money on the engineering, I think they will do it. But I've not actually gotten firm confirmation yet from the county administrator or, finance that it is going to happen in this coming year's budget.
Are there any other ways to raise money?
The Friends?
Yeah, well, true.
Well, and again, just because I'm catching this stuff in the paper, I know the county's looking at making some improvements in this building, and I'm thinking, I don't think it looks as bad as what we're dealing with and the needs of Seneca Library. And so I get a little frustrated when I see that stuff, whether it's true or not, but it is getting in print, and that's the message we're sending out there. Seneca's okay, the library, but our county, building, administrative building needs improvement. I don't know, I don't get it, so.
How can we, and besides in like endowments or people
Well, I
donating
will
money?
say that one of the things that the county did, there are a couple of grant opportunities that I know Brittany Martin, who's the county grants writer, is looking at for us. I think
Right.
they would like to do it with grants instead of having to either do it with, county money or
Sure.
bond it out or whatever. Obviously, it'd be great if they could do it with grants, and since it, we might fall under several things, whether it's, USDA, whether it's, whatever, because it is an older building and, there's certain tax districts in Seneca that are poorer, so we might fall under that, thing, but I know Brittany was looking for some things. They do have some opportunities I know that she was looking at. Of course, they have some other priorities. They need to fix up, a couple other buildings, not just this building, but they've got a couple other things that they're gonna be working on. But I do know that she was gonna talk to, and has been talking to Ms. Brock, the county administrator, and they are looking for some other opportunities to do this, so. I feel like because they had already committed the engineering money, it will happen, and I'm hoping it will happen within the next year then, but I just don't know that for certain yet. And I don't know, like, vehicle, pot of money, I don't really know what it is.
It just feels like the ADA would have resources for us to tap into to make a public facility
And I know
compliant.
Brittany is looking at some federal grants, so it might be just that, it might be that because it is to improve access to our building, that we
Right.
can find a grant to help us with that too.
Gosh, I hope so. Okay, cool, that'd be great. All right, so we're gonna go into new business. We had our presentation by Jocelyn, which was wonderful. An update on South Carolina legislative session, is that you as well, Blair?
Okay, a couple of different things on that. If you've kind of paid attention to any of the stuff that's been going on down there, there are some various bills that are floating around dealing with, different, pornographic or whatever you want to call them.
okay.
In, both school libraries and in public libraries. The fortunate thing for us, it looks as if some of the more extreme ones that, there was a bill about, protecting minors from pornography that was going to change the wording in some of the state statutes where it says right now, okay, sure, there might be some things in it that are objectionable, but if you take the work as a whole, then, it has merit. There is a bill out there right now that had been introduced, it's in committee, hasn't gone anywhere yet, thank goodness, but actually wants to strip out that language and say that if there's any part of it that's deemed objectionable, then it has to go. Fortunately, we think that one is, there's some extreme voices down there, but we think that one is, kind of dead on arrival. There's some other things they've done with education and that kind of thing. The good thing for us is that the House passed the budget recently at the state level as well, and there were no objections, no amendments, no that kind of thing to the state library's budget. So we feel like, again, this year, we, meaning APLA, the state library's directors, group of directors, we did not seek an increase in state aid this year. The state library had some pretty big asks. They're also facing staffing problems and, building problems and want to move some of their, things that they fund, like databases and all, off of federal money and put it on state money. They also are trying to get more money for Talking Book Services, which is the service for the blind and handicapped to get reading materials. So they had some fairly substantial asks this year, so APLA did not seek, an increase in state aid. But we do believe that they will, if the budget gets passed, if the Senate passes it, if the governor doesn't veto anything, we do believe we'll still be at $225 per capita this year. Of course, they last year did accept the 2020 census numbers, so that's times 78,607, county population. So our state aid will be in good shape. We'll, get that again this year. We don't really know too much about anything else with the budget, of course, until they have conference and it all gets sorted out. but it was good news for us that there didn't really seem to be any issues with the state library's requests and that kind of thing that went through. So the services that the state library provides to all of us, and I think you get some of the stuff from like United for Libraries and that kind of thing, so you're pretty familiar with some of the stuff that they're doing. It's valuable to us, and I think their request went through this year as well. Now, next year, we're already talking in APLA, the Association of Public Library Administrators, the state directors, we're gonna go pretty heavy. We're gonna ask for $3 per capita, because that benefits the larger library systems. We are just above per capita, because the minimum is now $100,000 per county, so, I'm sorry, $150,000 per county, so we are just above the cutoff, but there are some counties not too much smaller than us that they get the 150,000. Yeah, they get the minimum. We're slightly above that, we get about $177,000 from state aid, did this last year, what we should get again this year, so we're slightly above it. But in getting that 150,000 minimum floor increased, the larger library systems don't really benefit from that. Your Greenvilles, your Spartanburgs, your Richlands, your Charlestons, they don't benefit from that. So APLA's strategy in the past has been 1 year to go for an increase in the minimum to help out the minimum counties, and then the other year go for a per capita increase to help the per capita counties. And we've kind of step. And this year we did take a year off because of the substantial asks on the part of the state library, because we work with Lisa Aiken, the state librarian, to try and get, she presents at a lot of the state, like budget hearings and that kind of stuff, so we work with her to try to get our budget through, so, but next year we are gonna seek a $3 per capita increase, or an increase up to $3 per capita, so, but it's looking pretty good. I think enough, people both with SCASL, which is the SC, state, school librarians, and then, SCLA, which is South Carolina Library Association, all have been really keeping an eye on some of this legislation coming out of Columbia. So I think what finally emerges will not be near as, I think just introducing it and having it out there, that was red meat for some of these, different bases. I think once it finally gets to what they pass, we're really hoping a lot of that stuff will just go off.
So that's my question. So libraries, I know in the past we've had to deal with some concerns with local citizens about some books in the library. And the wording that our local library has is solid. So I'm just curious, if our local libraries are somewhat, have autonomy in discretion, but I think that came from state wording, if I remember correctly. I guess I'm just so curious where the break in trust is between legislators and the autonomy of the.
That is actually our point to them.
Yeah.
That was the point, the communication that they've already gotten from APLA, SCASL, SCLA. We haven't made a big deal out of it so far because a lot of their focus, and we're not throwing, that's why we include SCASL, we're not throwing school libraries under the bus by any means. But a lot of what they've so focused on so far is, what's being taught in the schools and all that kind of thing. But we've been keeping an eye on it. We do have, APLA actually does have a paid legislative liaison that we have that is super on top of things. She works out of a firm that's out of Columbia and also out of Greenville called Pecan Public Relations. She's very good. She keeps us aware of what's going on, all the hearings, all the stuff, that kind of thing. I think honestly though, that was our point to them. Here you did years ago talked about state rule and how, individual counties are in charge of these things and whatever. You all have set up a system where we have library boards in every county, and each of the 41, because there's 46 counties, but some of them are like regional systems. Abbeville, Barnwell, Bamberg, Edgefield, and then Allendale, Jasper, Hampton. So there's a couple of library systems that are like consortial systems, and then there is one municipal system down in Myrtle Beach. So there's 41 total of, with boards and everything. But each county, even in those consortial systems, each county does have a board. So there's 46 library boards, 47 if you count the municipal one. mandated by home rule. I mean, when they came in, home rule and everything, then they set up, that's why legislation here in the county set up a library board. How do we appoint the library board? What are they in charge of? You all are in charge. That's why our reconsideration policy is written in such a way that it comes to me, I read it. If it's a children's book, myself and Darcy read it. We render our decision. If the person's not happy with that decision, they can appeal to the board. You are the final authority on whether the material stays or goes in the library system. That has been our point to them. You know, up to now, home rule, but then now you wanna pass these things that say, okay, that shouldn't be in any libraries. That's our point to them. And that's why I say it's red meat to some bases, depending on where their politics lie, but we don't think that it's gonna crop up more and more. It's a concern of ours, and I mean, we're gonna keep an eye on it each year in APLA and with our partners with South Carolina Library Association, School Library, Association of School Librarians. I mean, we're gonna, keep an eye on this. But generally, yeah, that sounds great when you introduce the bill and you get up and you speak on the House floor and you make a big deal out of it and everything else. But when it gets to conference and when it gets to, the whole tale about you making sausage, nobody wants to see that happen. So far it has, actually there's supposed to be hearings this week in the House, and that particular subcommittee that was in charge of some of those bills it's not on their agenda. So we think just by, us keeping an eye out and keeping aware and being ready, we got a whole network of directors in the state, plus all the school librarians and everything else. I mean, if it came time for us to need to call out for support, we have it. But we've just been kind of keeping an eye on it and making sure that it just simmers, but it doesn't blow up. And that's
Good, thank you.
I'll add, there is, in a couple of weeks, I'm meeting with some upstate academic library directors to discuss that and how to kind of keep an eye on it and be poised as well. So if I can offer anything, learning from that, I will.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so I think we are looking to go into executive session. Is that correct, Blair?
That is correct, so we will need a motion to go into executive session in a second.
All right.
Motion,
Motion to
a
go.
motion to go to
Second.
executive session?
All right.
All right, give me just a second.
make a motion that we come back out of executive session. Is there a second?
Who's my motion, who's my second?
I motioned.
I second.
Okay?
Yep.
Hold on.
Call for a vote.
All right.
I don't think we call for a vote for that, do we?
Okay. No, well, that, just a point of reference, I guess. Should we be calling for votes after those motions and seconds for all things?
I think so.
Well, it's pretty much unanimous. I mean, if
Okay.
anybody objected.
Thank
I
you,
think-
though. That's good to know. Thank you. Yes.
Well, because someone could
Yes.
abstain, not in this per se.
Right.
But
Yeah.
for
Like when you
particular
did the
votes.
agenda
In general,
minutes
you would
at
call
the
for a
beginning.
vote and then, you know, or
Right.
I've been in things where they basically said, okay, is anybody opposed, anybody abstain?
Yeah.
Obviously, if you don't speak up, then it's
Yes.
unanimous, so
Sure.
Yeah.
you can do it that way too. I've been in
Okay.
public meetings
Just
where
to
they
point
basically
out.
said, you know.
No, that's good. Point of protocol. I guess I was thinking there was not anything controversial.
No,
We weren't
no.
putting something up.
Be-
So, yes, that's
Yeah.
good. I'll have it down next time.
Motion to adjourn.
I guess we're good. Motion to adjourn.
A second.
It's 6:50.
She
I did
wanted
that
to
for
bang
you.
that gavel.